This chart shows a fintech client of mine going from 100 monthly views to 1200 in less than 6 months. No new content, no paid ads, just refreshes. And the system behind it is something any content team can replicate. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact refresh process that I used and how AI infrastructure powers every step of it, so you can move fast, stay consistent, and let the results compound over time. The first step is to prioritize the right pages. Now, the biggest mistake teams make with content refreshes is they don't quite know where to start. Without a clear system, you're just guessing, going after random pages, or refreshing whatever feels the most urgent. None of that compounds into real results. Prioritization is everything. And the way I do it is grounded in the same customer data that I covered in a previous video. I'll link to it below because it covers how I take sales calls, product data, and customer conversations and turn them into a content priority list. That foundation applies directly here. The process starts by identifying what actually matters to your customers as well as your business right now. I take all customer data such as call transcripts, product pages, onboarding notes, and push it through an AI flow that surfaces the priorities your ICP actually cares about. What the data tells you is exactly what your customers want. After this, I run a second flow that looks at all your existing URLs and matches them against those priorities. For example, which pages are aligned with what your customers are asking about, which ones are completely off, which ones are closed but need repositioning, and so on. The flow scores and reasons through each URL and gives you a ranked list. Now, here's the important part. A human being needs to review that final list before anything gets touched. The AI just gives you the framework, but ultimately it's your judgment that determines the final order. You know your business, your sales cycle, and your product roadmap much better than any AI flow does. So use that knowledge. The second step is to fix search intent. Now, once you know which pages to prioritize, the next question is, what does this page actually need to do better? And the answer almost always starts with search intent. Most underperforming pages are not failing because they're badly written. They're failing because they're answering the wrong question. The page was built around what the company wanted to say, not what the searcher actually wanted to find. That disconnect kills your rankings before you've even written a single word. Now, here's how you fix it. If you've done the previous step correctly, search intent should be a lot more obvious because you already have data on what your customers are asking about, the language they use, and the problems they're trying to solve. That customer data is your starting point, not a keyword research tool. For this step, I lean pretty heavily on Google Search Console or GSC data. I look at which keywords the page is already getting impressions for. These are the terms that Google has already associated with that page. The next step is to identify the high impression keywords where a page isn't ranking in the top positions. Now, that gap is your opportunity. Those are the terms your page is being considered for but not winning, and a focused refresh can help close that gap fast. For this fintech client, this is where we found some of the biggest wins. Several pages were getting strong impressions for keywords that they weren't even targeting. And the intent was there, but the page just wasn't built to capture it. Now, once we realigned content around what searchers were actually looking for, rankings moved quickly. This is also the point where I start thinking about AEO and how the page will be led by LLMs. But for now, all I'll say is that I have a dedicated video on exactly how to optimize for AI visibility, and I'll link to it below. It covers every best practices in detail, so I'm not going to go deep on it here. For now, just understand that AI infrastructure that underlines all of this process is super critical. You cannot execute any of this at speed manually. The third step is to actually go ahead and create the content. Now, once you know what one particular page needs, you need to create the refreshed version with both SEO and AEO best practices in mind. Now, in case you're not aware, AEO stands for Answer Engine Optimization. It's basically what we've decided to call LLM visibility search these days. And this is about structuring your content so that LLMs like ChatGPT and Perplexity can parse it, understand it, and cite it when your buyers are asking relevant questions. Now, I have a full video dedicated on exactly how to do this, covering every best practices for ranking in both Google as well as LLMs. I'll link to it below, and it's worth going through it before you start publishing refreshes. For this particular fintech client, we made sure that every refresh page was optimized for both SEO as well as AEO. And that's why a big part of the results were they essentially compounded the way they did. The fourth step is to set up automated monitoring. Now, this last piece is making sure that you never fall behind again. Most teams only notice content is underperforming when the damage is already done. Traffic has dropped, rankings have slipped, and they're playing catch up. This step eliminates that problem entirely. Now, the first thing to do here is to set up custom Looker dashboards that pull data directly from Google Search Console and GA4. Basically, I usually track three things: traffic drops, pages that are seeing a meaningful decline in views month over month. The second thing I track is position drops. Now, pages that are losing position ground in the rankings. Now, of course, this is for average position, but what you want to do is map each keyword to each page and track positions on a keyword level. The last thing I track is keyword drops, specifically keywords that have fallen out of the top 5 or the top 10, because those are the position where traffic actually lives. Dropping from position 3 to position 8 on a high impression keyword, for example, can cut your click significantly. And without monitoring it, you won't catch it until it's already hurt you. Now, this AI flow runs automatically every month. It pulls the data from Looker Dash and surfaces a flagged list of pages that needs attention. All of this feeds directly back into step 1. It becomes your next refresh priority list. So in a way, the system really is self-sustaining. You're not starting from scratch every time you want to know what to work on. The AI infrastructure is telling you what to do. Now, for this fintech client, we always had a very clear picture of what was working, what was slipping, and what needed to be next in the queue. Combining this with refreshing 3 pages a week, the compounding effect is what produced that chart that you saw at the start. Steady, consistent growth over 6 months, driven entirely by a system that essentially runs itself. And that's the full refresh system. Prioritize the right pages using customer data, fix the search intent using GSC, create content optimized for both SEO and AEO, and let your monitoring flow keep the engine running automatically. This is what took my client from 100 to 1200 monthly views in less than 6 months. There was no new content, just a systematic approach to what was already there. The AI infrastructure powering each step is what makes the volume possible without sacrificing quality. Build the system once and it compounds over time. Now, if you want to see how I implement this, check out my other videos and follow along here. And if this was useful, like and subscribe. It genuinely helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.